I wake up every morning beside a man who has never truly held me. And I have done that for 10 years. 10 years of waking up and feeling alone. The sunlight comes in through the window just like it always does. Soft, warm, almost beautiful. But it never reaches the part of me that feels empty. From the outside, my life looks complete. A home, a marriage, a name I answer to. But inside this room, inside this body, I have been quietly disappearing. There was a time I believed marriage meant closeness, that it meant laughter and shared spaces, warmth in the silence, and comfort in being seen. I remember the day I got married. Everything felt bright, full of promise, full of hope. I walked into that life thinking I was beginning something beautiful. I didn't know. I was walking into silence. It didn't happen all at once. There was no moment I could point to and say, this is where everything changed. It was gradual, subtle, like something slipping away quietly. At night, we would lie in the same bed, but something was missing. Something important. Something I didn't know how to ask for, and he never tried to give. At first, I thought it was me. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe I wasn't beautiful in the way he needed, or soft enough, or interesting enough. So I tried harder. I adjusted myself in ways no one could see. I smiled more, spoke less, waited longer, but nothing changed. His family watched me like I didn't belong. Every look felt like judgment. Every silence felt like rejection. I learned quickly that I could not speak about what was happening, because in their eyes, the problem would always be me. So I kept quiet. I carried everything inside, and I became good at pretending. Days turned into months. Months turned into years. And before I realized it, I had spent years living beside someone who never reached for me. No touch, no closeness, no intimacy, just space and silence. I stopped expecting anything. I stopped hoping, because hope started to hurt. There were nights I lay awake, staring into darkness, feeling like I didn't exist, like I was invisible in my own life. I would listen to the quiet and wonder how something could feel so loud. Loneliness has a sound, and I heard it every night. I began to lose parts of myself. The version of me that once believed in love started to fade. I became someone who just endured, someone who stayed, someone who survived, but not someone who lived. One morning, I looked at myself differently, not with sadness, but with clarity. For the first time, I saw my life for what it truly was, not what I hoped it would be, but what it had become. And something shifted inside me, not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply. I realized that even if no one else sees me, I can still see myself. Even if no one else chooses me, I can still choose myself. I am still here, and maybe that is where my story truly begins. Not on my wedding day, not in the years I spent waiting, not in the silence that slowly shaped me, but here, in this moment of seeing myself clearly. For a long time, I thought endurance was strength. I thought staying, no matter how empty it felt, was proof that I was doing something right. I believed that if I kept giving, if I stayed quiet, if I became smaller, softer, easier to accept, then one day, something would change. But nothing ever did. The days kept moving, the nights kept stretching, and I kept fading into a version of myself I no longer recognized. I lived beside someone, but I was living without connection, without touch, without closeness, without being truly seen. And the hardest part was not the silence. It was how normal it started to feel. I became used to being alone, even when I wasn't. I became familiar with emptiness, like it was part of my identity. But something shifted. Not because anyone noticed me, not because anything around me changed, but because I finally did. I began to understand that loneliness inside a marriage is a different kind of pain. It doesn't shout. It doesn't break things. It sits quietly and slowly takes pieces of you until one day you realize you have nothing left to give. And in that realization, there was something unexpected. Not fear, not anger, but clarity. For the first time, I stopped asking what I did wrong. I stopped trying to fix something that was never mine to carry alone. I stopped waiting, and I started feeling again. Feeling the weight of my own presence, the reality of my own needs, the truth I had been avoiding for years. I deserved more than silence, more than distance, more than a life where I had to disappear to belong. That truth didn't come loudly. It didn't arrive with dramatic change. It came quietly, like a whisper I could no longer ignore. And in that quiet, I found something I thought I had lost. Myself. Not the version shaped by expectation, not the version that kept adjusting, but the one that still existed underneath everything. Still present, still aware, still worthy. I began to see my life differently, not as something I was trapped in, but as something I could finally understand. Every year, every moment, every silent night, they didn't break me, they revealed me. And now, for the first time in a long time, I am not waiting to be chosen. I am not shrinking to be accepted. I am not holding on to what never held me. I am standing in the truth of what I feel. And that is where everything changes. Because my story was never about being left untouched. It was about learning not to abandon myself. And now, even in this same room, even in this same life, something is different. I am here, fully aware, fully present, and no longer invisible to myself. This is not the end of my story. This is the moment I finally step into it. What hurts more, being alone or feeling alone beside someone? Would you stay or walk away? Is this love or quiet suffering? What hurts more, being alone or feeling alone beside someone? Would you stay or walk away? Is this love or quiet suffering?